Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Krauss. I'm the co-founder of inventRight, and I'm going to be doing maybe a whole hour of Q&A today. And I just want to see if you guys can help me out. Occasionally the mic doesn't work, so if you could type yes. Doesn't have to be everybody, but a couple of you typing in yes into the chat box to let me know you can hear me. It'd be good. Didn't get much sleep tonight. Last night. Only got about 4 hours worth of sleep. And I've had appointments back to back since 8 a.m. this morning, so I'm a little bit tired. Hello. So hi, Ida. Can you guys hear me? Can somebody type yes? So because I am a little tired, it's the end of my day. If I say something incorrect, I'll make sure to correct myself, but we should be fine. Anybody saying yes yet? I need somebody to say yes for me to start the Q&A. That will confirm that I know you guys can hear me. There we go. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. If you could type your, I can read your handle name, but if you could type your first name, that'd be nice. I can address you by your first name. Let's see. So let's get going. Sorry, I just got off back-to-back calls. So if I look tired, it's because I am. But I could do licensing in my sleep, so not a problem. Let's say first, Lucky Locomotion. Okay, that's their handle. Says, I'm self-employed, making ends meet coins. More like right now, I got one simple idea book, and it arrived and took long with the pandemic. Well, that sucks. I thought Amazon was getting those books out pretty quick, but thanks for letting us know. And you wrote, I will start the process soon when I save a little to maintain myself. Good. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're really thin financially, licensing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes companies quite often 3 to 9 months can be longer to put a product into production. Then you get paid your royalties every 3 months, so it's almost always over a year before you start to see royalties. And asking for a whole bunch of upfront money is the best way to kill a deal. Like, oh, but it's a great idea, Andrew. I want to ask for $50,000, $100,000 up front. No, they're going to invest money in your project, not you. They are going to. And that is always a risk because not every product is successful. So it leaves a bad taste in their mouth if you say, well, I want $50K up front, and they're already investing $150K to launch a new product. It's not a way to close a deal. That's a way to kill a deal. And I have talked to inventors, not our students, of course, not our inventRight students, but that ask for $250,000 up front, some crazy thing. I mean, it could be a product where you're earning 100, 200K a year in royalties, but you would never ask for that up front. I wouldn't say never. There was those exceptions. If you started your own business and you've been selling the product for 3 years, you have inventory and distribution and all that, okay, then you're kind of selling the company plus getting a royalty. But most of you are just licensing it directly, which is perfectly fine. That's what almost all of our students do. And you don't want to top load the deal. So with Lucky Locomotion, if you're kind of thin financially, get yourself into a space. You want to have a job, you want to have a business, you want to have income coming in. Because what I'm saying is you can make a lot of money with licensing, but it doesn't come in overnight because it takes them a while to launch the product. And as they make money, you make money. So I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but you also wrote, love you guys and thank you for replying and caring and going. And I think people will love my idea and think I'm crazy, but I'm sure you guys won't. So a little bit of a lot of crazy is bad. A little bit of crazy or a little bit of creativity is a good thing. It all depends. But I was talking to somebody this morning, and I was explaining to them that part of getting on the phone and talking to a company that's showing interest is to show that you're not one of those wacky inventors. You're easy enough to talk to. You don't have to agree on everything, but you're not gonna embarrass them if they introduce your product or you to somebody in the company. You're not gonna be like spamming people in the company. Oh, Bob didn't like my idea, but I think Bob's an idiot, or just all the crazy things that an inventor could do. So one of the things they're doing is they're interviewing you to see if you're easy enough to work with, because it doesn't matter how great the product is, if they think you're going to be a pain in the ass, they're going to say, oh, we decided not to move forward with your project. They're not going to say you're crazy. So being level-headed, you don't need to come across as like a captain of industry or anything like that, but you need to not be crazy, which is a pretty low bar that I think most of you can accommodate. I was eating some apple chips here, so I'm getting those out of my teeth right now. I need a little sugar rush. Spence says, hi, Andrew. What do I need to provide for a licensing lawyer? Well, when we help our students with licensing deals, we get them to about 95% done. And then we say, have a licensing attorney dot the I's and cross the T's. But there's a whole part of the negotiation before the contract. Definitely 100% do not have a licensing attorney handling that. They don't know how to talk about manufacturing or the product itself or different issues. We're a hell of a lot better at that. And even the negotiation, it's better when them and their attorney work with you and you don't work with an attorney. And our students are working with our negotiation coach, Paul. And usually what Paul will do is he'll have the company that's interested and their attorney send their contract. And we found it's a lot better to go through that, say, here are the issues, here are the things that are missing, and then go back to them. So you're modifying or bloodying their contract a little bit. It's too messy if you want to just go, oh, Andrew, can I have a standard contract? It's like, and I'll just shove this in the face of a potential licensee. That doesn't work out well. It's better for them whenever possible. It's not always the case, but the vast majority of the time you get them to send it. And then we go through it with the student, goes back and forth, and them and their attorney make the changes. And because we know all the major deal points and we train our students when they leave us, they can do this. And if you can't agree on the major deal points, why are you hiring some attorney at $200, $300, $400, or $500 an hour? It doesn't make any sense. So, but we do tell our students, look, we're not attorneys. Before you sign this, have an attorney look it over for an hour or two. But there's going to be, when we help our students, there's going to be no major deal point issues. It's like change this word, change this sentence sort of stuff. So that really enables you to license products the rest of your life, because when you know how to get to deals, when you're with us, we're helping, but when you're not with us, you've been trained to 95% done, and only contact an attorney when it's 95% done. That's very cost effective, but also it helps you increase the chances you do a deal. If every time you get a little interest, an email, you send, oh, can we talk, or something like that, and you call a licensing attorney, they're quite often going to kill the deal and send you a big bill, and it gets very expensive. People are very worried about patent costs, and so they get excited when you file a provisional patent for $75, and there's the solution there, but they're not even thinking down the line with the licensing attorney. And you want to save money, but you also don't want them to kill the deal. So very, very important to utilize them before you sign it, but get all the major deal points hashed out before you have an attorney look at it. Let's see. Chase says, do big retailers like Walmart license from inventors? And if I have a product that contains a mechanism that can be made through different forms, can a PPA cover all the different forms? Okay, so there's two questions there. So the first question is, do big retailers like Walmart license from inventors? Yes, it's possible, but that's a great question, Chase. But when you understand the basics of licensing, you'll understand that you don't license to a retailer, you license to the manufacturer that sells at the retailer. So like, random example, I don't think they're open to licensing anymore, but they used to be. OXO Good Grips, they make like bottle openers and can openers and different kitchen gadgets. So if you go to Walmart and you see like they're in Walmart, what do you know? You see their product in Walmart or Target or elsewhere, and you're like, I know there's somebody, I know they're qualified, they're in a Target or they're in a Walmart. And you license to them, and they already have 10, 15 products in Walmart or Target, and they're going to plug your product in there and get the product in the same store. So, but Walmart, Target, other retailers, they do their own house brands, and sometimes you don't even know what they are because they don't, back in the old days, they used to say Black Label or something like that. But you wouldn't even know it's a Walmart house brand half the time. I don't remember. I think it's for kitchen gadgets. Well, I'm not even going to say it, but sometimes you don't know. You're like, oh, I keep seeing this coming up. And then you realize, oh, that's a Walmart brand. If you Google around, you'll kind of figure it out. But for the most part, and this is changing, but Walmart's, Target's, Home Depot's of the world, they do generic items on their own to reduce costs. So like a towel, a chair, really generic stuff. They're like, let's cut out the manufacturer. We're going to go direct to China, make it ourselves because these are staples. But they don't typically innovate. So if you have an inventive, innovative product, they don't want to do that. They will typically just do generic stuff. Now, there are exceptions where the house brand for the retailer does somewhat innovative stuff. So if you Google it and you find out, oh, that's the house brand for Target, and these products are somewhat innovative, my product would fit in with theirs, that's fine, but it's 9 times out of 10 or 9.5 times out of 10, you're not, or 9.9 times out of 10, you are not licensing to the retailer, you're licensing to the manufacturer that's selling it to the retailer, okay? So that was a really long answer, but an important one. So Chase says, the other part of the question, and if I have a product that contains a mechanism that can be made through different forms, can a PPA cover all the different forms? Yes, and not only can it, but it should. So 80% of filing a good provisional patent is thinking about the variations and workarounds and improvements and including those in a PPA. It's not about legal speak. It's not about complicated patent language because a patent can be written in common English. It's about being an inventor. But here's the problem. When inventors have been thinking about something, an invention for a while, maybe a year, 2 years, maybe 6 months, it becomes ingrained in your brain. This is what it is. This is what it is. And that's fine. You're like, this is what I think the best version of the product is that I'm going to show in my marketing piece to a potential licensee, to a manufacturer. But what you have to do when you're filing your provisional before you start reaching out to companies is you got to think about all the variations. And you have to include those in your provisional. Now, are you going to include a version that's half as good? No, that's getting ridiculous. You're just wasting your time. It's not even competition. But if it's a version that's 90% as good or just as good, but not the version you're selling, or maybe even 70% as good, throw all in there. It doesn't cost you anything except for your time. Time is money. But it doesn't cost you anything to throw all that stuff in there. But don't include ridiculous versions that wouldn't be competitive from a price standpoint or a feature standpoint or something. I've seen inventors get completely obsessed, including every variation possible. That wouldn't be competition for your product. Like, it would be an inferior product compared to your product or compared to the other variations. So you do want to cover all those other variations of your product in the provisional. And if you've been thinking about the product for a long time, it's hard to do that because it starts to become fixed. Even though inventors are creative, it starts to become fixed in your head as to what it is. And you need to think about like knocking yourself off when you're filing a provisional patent and go, what else could it be? How else could it be done? Because if there's 5 other ways of doing it that are just as good as yours, your provisional patent or your patent is worthless because then they just get around it. So our students spend the time, our inventRight students spend the time to think about those variations, and our coaches push our students to do that. A lot of inventors don't. And they go to a patent attorney and they just give the one variation. And that's on them. They should have told the patent attorney, not here's my widget with all the variations. And the patent attorney, if they were good, in my biased opinion, should say, okay, that's cool, but where are the variations? If you want me to do a good job, I can only operate with what you give me. You've got to give me more information. But if the inventor doesn't do it and the patent attorney doesn't do it, because the patent attorney, sometimes inventors give patent attorneys a hard time. Like, oh, well, that's your job. Like, do your job. I'm paying you all this money. That's the wrong attitude. That is a stupid ass attitude on the part of the inventor. And to me, when an attorney doesn't want to push the inventor to do it because they're worried about getting the job because they don't want to push the inventor for more information and do a better job, then that's stupid on the part of the patent attorney, in my biased opinion. So these are just my opinions. but they're very helpful in giving you some perspective on things, I think. Spence says, and do I need to sign an NDA before sending anything over? Sending anything over to who? To a potential licensee, to us, to a licensing attorney. You know, you're going to engage the services of a licensing attorney, so that's going to be all baked in there, you know, for the final review of a contract. And then for us, yes, we sign NDAs. Everything our students share with us is confidential. If you ask a company up front before they see your product to sign an NDA, most of them won't sign it. And when attorneys tell you, like, oh, you have to insist everybody signs your NDA, you know they don't do licensing, because a lot of companies, you know, well, I cover this on every Q&A that I do practically. Like, imagine you get 100 ideas from inventors, and every inventor had their own NDA. It would take forever for their in-house counsel to review each NDA to make sure it doesn't say you own their company in the NDA. They'll typically, if they want you to sign an NDA, they'll send you yours. You need to review it, make sure it's okay. If it's okay, sign it. If it's not, then don't, you know, and don't submit to them. But you filed your provisional patent application. That's your main form of protection. Anything that I share tonight, by the way, should not be considered legal advice. Please seek the services of an attorney for legal advice. We're just talking in general business terms, okay? But your provisional patent is a placeholder in time. The emails that you send to the company is creating a paper trail. NDAs don't have the protection that you think they do. Now, sometimes our students will send a sell sheet to a company and they show interest. And sometimes you just see in the sell sheet, like, I understand everything about this product, it's just obvious, right? Other times there might be hidden internal parts that you wouldn't share in the marketing piece, but are critical for them understanding. So, but then, you know, instead of having to go over 100 NDAs with 100 people submitting, you know, let's say they're like, can you send us a prototype? Asking them to sign an NDA at that point is a lot more reasonable, because you're going to send them maybe some CAD drawings, maybe you're going to send them a prototype, maybe you're going to disclose something hidden internally. Now, don't do sell sheets that hide what the product is. They're like, I don't quite get this. Don't ever do that. You need to do the full-on marketing so they get the product. Don't hold back on that. But with some products, you don't need to disclose some things that are critical in order to market it, because you wouldn't market it that way to a consumer anyway. And in that case, you want to disclose those things, and they're showing interest. Ask them to sign an NDA. They're more likely to accommodate you. But for them to sign an NDA, they don't even know what you're sending yet. They feel uncomfortable with that. Some companies will do it. Most companies in the US won't. In Europe, for some reason, they're a lot more open to it. It's a lot more common. In the US, most inventors are protecting themselves with the paper trail of the emails and the provisional patent. Again, none of this is legal advice. This is just common sense business advice, real world advice that we share with our students and that I'm sharing with you. Okay, Jason says, hey, Andrew, I have about 4 to 5 months left on my PPA. Is it possible to land a deal within that time frame? Hope you had a great holiday. Yeah, I did have a good holiday. It's been an exhausting Monday because I didn't sleep last night. And then I just had back-to-back calls, literally, since 8 a.m. But I did have a good holiday. Thank you for asking. Your PPA doesn't, when your PPA runs out, you're not screwed. And a lot of patent attorneys, not a lot, some, will leave information out to make you believe that you'll lose your rights if you don't file a full utility patent and reference your provisional within that year. And that's not true. Now, they use very careful wording. You know, they'll say, well, but when I talk to a lot of inventors that aren't inventRight students, they're like, oh, my patent attorney says I'll lose my rights. I'm like, what did he say specifically? Well, I'll lose my, I won't get my effective date, and I'll lose my rights from that date. Okay, yeah, that's true. But if you hadn't made a public disclosure, and again, this is something we cover in every Q&A, so I don't know, anyway. But if you haven't made a public disclosure, what's public disclosure? Selling it at a swap meet, putting it up in a public YouTube video, putting it up on a website. But if you just privately showed it for a license, it's kind of debatable, but it's not more or less considered public disclosure. So you could file that again. So if you're privately showing for a license, now a lot of you haven't shown it to anybody. And then without a doubt, you can file it again and get a year. Now you're not continuing that past year. If I filed a provisional patent that, Jason says he only has 4 or 5 months on, took the exact same provisional, let's say I'm Jason, and filed it today, I would have 1 year from today. I don't get to reach back and attach it. Provisional patents are not connected in any way, shape, or form. I have to file it exact same thing today, and I would get a year from today. I'll lose the 7 months, but what are the chances, and this is just real world as opposed to the paranoid world that attorneys tend to push inventors toward, what are the chances that somebody else came up with in those 7 months? Is it worth $10,000 for a patent? If it is, go ahead, spend it. But if you don't think it is, it's worth the risk, which I would say the vast majority of the time it's worth the risk just to file the provisional again if you haven't made public disclosure, then you'll get a year from the new date. So what Jason is freaking out about, or I don't know if freaking out, Jason, worried about, can I get a deal in 4 or 5 months? I think there's a good chance. It depends. If you don't know what you're doing, no. If your marketing materials suck, if you're not approaching the right companies, you're not being aggressive enough, you're not using LinkedIn, email, and phone to get in, 4 to 5 months might not be enough. It is enough for our students with a coach guiding you, but if you're just a fan of ours and you don't have a coach guiding you, I would say that's going to be hard. If you have a coach guiding you, you're fine. But here's the thing is, don't worry about it. File the provisional again. Now, I don't know if you made public disclosure or not. So, because 1 year from the time you make a public disclosure, you're toast. But if you haven't, Jason, then just move forward with it. Okay. Tanya, still watching the collection of videos. Yeah, I think we have over 600 now. They are a great help. Thank you. How long after the PPA is filed can you expect to be getting patent pending status? This is basically immediately. You can legally say patent pending once you've filed your provisional patent application. You don't have to say provisional patent pending, which is so cool. You can say patent pending legally, and you are not lying, you are not deceiving them. It's perfectly fine. And you don't need to say provisional patent pending. Now, if they ask, you should say, yes, it is a provisional patent. It's really not an issue with 99% of companies that you're going to be approaching. So yeah, don't wait. They don't review provisional patents. They just make sure you paid your fee and you have your address and the form is filled out. I'm not even talking about what you're saying you're protecting. They don't care about that. You could scribble on a piece of paper with a crayon if most people are digitally sending them in, and they would accept it. So the big misperception is, well, I want to know if my provisional patent got accepted. The only reason why it wouldn't get accepted is because you didn't follow the instructions, you didn't put your address, you didn't pay the fee, and you didn't do something like that, okay? And that would be the only reason why it wouldn't get accepted. And I've had some people that didn't do that right, and they didn't pay the fee, and then they're trying to add to it, or not add to it, but they're trying to make it right. It's easier if you forgot to pay the fee. Just let it go. If they're sending you notices you didn't pay your fee and you're getting confused, just file it again and pay the fee and do it right this time. But call the 800 number. They're actually really helpful. The patent office is funded with patent fees. They're not funded with taxpayer dollars. And actually, other agencies of the government have been known to reach in and take these patent dollars, and they're not supposed to do that. So my point is, they're not your typical government agency. Yeah, they're government, okay. But they're more customer oriented because they literally survive on the patent fees. And you'll be surprised if you had some bad experiences with US government agencies. I think you'll find the patent office and their inventor help departments to be very, very helpful. And I talked to this one woman that was very computer illiterate, and this I don't know, they weren't an examiner, but they were just somebody helping out on the phone. They spent 2 hours with her on the phone, and I mean, I spent some time with her on the phone too, and she didn't even know how to send an email, but they walked her through it. And wow, I was really impressed by that. Jason, somebody's making a comment. Jason, if your product isn't built yet, you can renew your PPA. It's not renewing, it's just filing again. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. But it has nothing to do with it being built or not. You could build it privately in your garage or not. That makes no difference. But it's about public disclosure, okay? Sam is an interesting comment. What about putting the sell sheet, which is a marketing piece, guys, in the PPA? There are no rules with PPAs. You can do whatever you want. You could take a picture of your prototype, put it in there. You could do a line drawing. You could put a sell sheet in there. So you could, but I wouldn't really advise it, but you could do that. You typically don't want to do marketing in there. And I wouldn't advise that, but you could, maybe you didn't do the marketing quite right, or sorry, you didn't do the write-up quite right. But there's this really nice picture in there, and there's some issue. And you could go back, no, look, see in this picture here in the sell sheet, it shows that feature. I covered it, So you can do it, but I wouldn't advise it, but you can. There really are no rules with what you can or can't put in a provisional patent. I know it's weird, but it's kind of cool too. But I wouldn't put a sell sheet in there. I've had people do it in the past, and I've never seen it bite them in the butt. But I've never, in 21 years, had one of our students that I know of had to use their PPA. It's only if that year the PPA gives you before you file a utility. And you won't be filing a utility if nobody shows interest, right? It's only if the year in there is an issue that you would ever reference that PPA, and I've never seen that happen in 21 years. So if you did some funky stuff with your PPA, as long as when you file the full utility patent, if you even did, our students do deals all the time, the company's like, we don't care about patents. You can file it if you want, but we don't care. We'll pay you regardless. People are shocked by that. And they're gonna write the full non-provisional and cite, do the full coverage and do it right. Your patent attorney will do it right. They would only go back to the provisional if that 1 year was an issue. And I've never seen it happen in 21 years. So with that said, am I saying do a piss poor job with your PPA on purpose? No, don't do that. But it probably wouldn't bite you in the butt if you did. Just statistically, I'm just quoting from, we've had students in 65 countries over 21 years. I haven't seen it happen. Could, but do a good job with your PPA. We give our students a software called Smart IP that helps them file the provisional and do it right. Do a good job. There's no reason to do a sloppy job. Raul, hey Andrew, is it possible for a product to be totally different design at the end of the development process from its initial submission design? Absolutely, it's pretty common. Not totally different, but this is a big misperception that the company will either like or not like exactly what you sent. They might go, we really like this, but we have some concerns about this or this. And they might share those concerns. They might have a solution, or they might share the concerns and you have a solution. And I don't want to focus too much on PPAs, but that's the beautiful thing about a PPA. You spent $75 on it, and they have some issues. They're showing interest, but they have concerns, and you're like, oh, well, let me think on that. And then like a couple days, week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, you come up with a solution. File another provisional, including that improvement, and then show them the improvement. And now you got 2 provisionals. And if you do a deal with them and you want to file a patent later, you can have an attorney file a full utility and reference both provisionals. A lot of people trip out on that. So, but getting back to the main core of what Raul is asking is, a lot of inventing is done after you talk to the company. Don't have this attitude that you're not willing to change the color or change some of the features or anything like that. Ask them their opinion and be willing to make the changes. Now, if you have concerns or you think they're off on it, go ahead and tell them. But if they're willing to license it with this different version that you're coming up with or they're contributing to, go for it, you know? And so, yeah, quite often the product does, most of the time it'll change in some way. And to think that, or to be resistant to that is not professional. So make sure, be open to that, be positive about it, be open to discussing these problems and actively talk about it. Do you have any concerns? Say that, because if you say that and you give them the opportunity to speak up and they know your feelings won't be hurt, then you have the opportunity to help them with the solution. Otherwise, they'll come to the conclusion on their own and then you won't really know what the problem was. So that interaction is very, very important. Mike says, what happens if you don't pay the $75 fine fee and pay later? Well, you haven't filed a provisional then, Mike. It won't be active. It'll just, you can't, if what you're saying is purposely don't pay the 70, I don't know if it's what you're saying, purposely don't pay the 75 bucks, see if there's interest and then come back and pay it later if you get interest as a way of saying 75 bucks. I don't know if that's what you're saying. That's what I was thinking when I read that. No, that's silliness. That's not, because you want that date that the provisional gives you, and you're only going to get that date if you pay them the 75 bucks. But if you pay it like a week or two later because they said you didn't pay the fee, that's fine. But I find that the people that didn't pay the fee didn't follow the instructions, and it was the inventor's fault. And so they have further problems following the instructions on to fix it. And to fix paying the fee later is more complicated than just doing it from scratch and following their directions from scratch and doing it right the next time. I don't see people having a lot of problems filing provisionals, but the problem is the instructions on fixing you forgetting to pay the fee or not knowing how to pay the fee are actually more complicated than just starting over a new one, and they'll just let that one go delinquent. Does that make any sense? That's what I've noticed. I noticed weird things over 21 years that you guys probably won't experience, but I've noticed that. Keanu Hander, do you know any full-time product developers who use their royalties to hire additional product developers in order to scale their business? Yeah, I think there are little groups of people that do that. The thing is, I think that is a very professional thing to do. But most inventors, they're always more interested in their invention than anybody else's. But that would be really going pro. And I think any other product developers, they might be like industrial designers or very good at designing products, but have no clue how to license. And in that case, if you brought them on board and then you knew how to license and you did the actual outreach and everything, but they helped create the product and then you gave them a percentage, and then you got a percentage, I think you could do that in the long run. But most inventors are always more excited about their product than other people's products, but that would be a very professional thing to do. You could hire them. Hiring them as employees would be very risky because if you don't end up licensing, all that money goes out in salaries and come back. If you just did a cut where you gave them half of the royalties or what have you, and they were just really enjoyed designing stuff, but you knew how to license it, that might be a good match. But you should do it yourself first before you start doing stuff like that. You can't do that without you, knowing how to do it first. Okay. William says, Andrew, if I'm allowed to, is it better to pitch a product live or an email or Zoom better? Most of the time in most industries, you won't have an opportunity to pitch live. They just don't have the time. They'd rather get a sell sheet or a video, sift through 100, and maybe they'll look at 5. Or I'm just making up a random number. So now one area where one of our coaches, April, she's in the toy business, and they will give you meetings because they're looking to make relationships, and you need to have a lot of ideas in the toy business before you get one that hits, and you can get some feedback, and they will do that there. But most of the time, they don't give you, they don't know what the product is. Most of the time, you're sending a sell sheet, and this is what we advise our students to do, or a video. They're showing interest, and then you talk to them on the phone. But to pitch, most industries outside of toys, they don't have the time for that. And some inventors ramble so much, if they ever did entertain it, they would quickly kick that to the curb because it's wasting their time. So I would send a sell sheet or video, and then you're talking to them about the product. You're not pitching, because the sell sheet or video pitch, they showed interest in that. Then you're talking about the details, what they like. You're getting them wrapped up in the project. Just the fact that it takes 10 minutes to talk to you on the phone is so helpful. Never underestimate that. You know, they can email you stuff, but it doesn't mean a lot. When they take 10 minutes to talk to you on the phone, it means so much. They took 10 minutes of their valuable time to talk to you about it. Never undervalue that. It's extremely valuable. Anthony, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, Anthony. You're welcome. William, and if a live presentation, should I leave the prototype there or take it home with me? You don't get in-person presentations, William. I've had some students didn't follow our directions on that, and I always tell them, like, oh, the company wants me to fly out. I'm like, waste of time, waste of time, waste of time. They insist on, I'm like, the right people will not be there. It doesn't work like that. Licensing deals happen over months. It's like a phone call, 5 or 6 emails, a phone call, 3 or 4 emails. You're waiting for Sally to come back from vacation. You're waiting for them to get quotes from China. You're waiting for them to have a meeting with a group. You know, there's all sorts of reasons why you wait. To fly out and pitch is like you've been watching too much like reality TV. It doesn't work like that. There are exceptions. I don't find it to be effective. It's not a good use of time, especially with COVID now. But even when COVID wasn't around, we told our students it's a waste of time. There's always exceptions, okay? And inventors always want to be the exception, but no, it's most of the time it does not make sense to go out and pitch in person. But a Zoom presentation, yeah, but that's after they've got some interest from the sell sheet or the video, you know? Let's see. Daniel said, how long, Andrew, what's your advice on how long to wait during the process of licensing or venturing? Well, those are 2 different things. Licensing, selling your ideas for royalties, venturing, starting a business and selling it yourself. How long should I wait before you apply for a PPA? Okay, I'll address both. Is it the first thing you would do before starting the process? No, it was not. It's with licensing, which is what we do, but I'll comment on venturing too. With licensing, it's the last thing you do before you start calling. Because in the process of making your list of companies, setting all the products in space, making your marketing materials, almost every time you're going to find something that you wanted to put in your PPAs. You know, oh, I didn't know that existed. Oh, okay, I got to cover that variation in my PPA or something. So it should be something you do like the week before you're ready to start calling. And because it's, yeah, you could file it first thing out, but it's just a waste of $75, you know, and you don't want to like file a PPA, then do your research. Oh crap. Okay. It's only another $75, but it's not the proper order of things. And you want to file it like the week before you're ready to start calling because then you get the whole year. Now you never need, if you use our approach, and especially if you're getting guided by a coach, you'll never need a year for almost any product. You know, if it's legs in 3 or 4 months, maybe it drags for another 5 at most, and that's like 8 months, 9 months, but it'll never hit a year. The problem is people file the PPA, they don't know how to call, they don't have their marketing materials, they haven't done their research, they don't have their list of companies, they don't feel confident reaching out, and then the PPA just starts ticking away. And then people freak out and go, oh my God, it's running out. And then some attorney's like, oh, if you want to preserve your filing date, you need to file a full utility. Well, that's 10 freaking grand. You know, and again, you know how I said before, they leave the information out. Like if you want to preserve your filing date, but they don't tell you that if you didn't make public disclosure, you didn't show it to anybody, you can still file that same provisional again because they want to get you for 10 grand. And I hate that. Not all attorneys do that, not at all. But I don't like it when attorneys do that. They're not properly informing you. They're trying to sell you a very expensive product that you don't need. Because the patent office, when you're licensing, gives you a year to say patent pending. Why would you ever file a full utility when you're licensing when the patent office for $75 gives you a year? Nobody can see what you filed. It's beautiful. Keeps them guessing. When you file a full utility after 18 months, even if there's an issue, it goes public. Companies can take a look at it. They can see it. they can't see what you've got been granted yet because it's not granted, but they can see what you're trying to get. I love provisionals for a whole year. You can't see what you have. So I like it the week before you start calling. Now, don't worry about it. I know a lot of you get excited and you filed a provisional. No big deal. Okay, you wasted $75, and you'll spend another $75 so you can get a whole year just before you're ready to start calling. But it doesn't do you any good if you don't know how to reach out to companies. It'll just tick away and it will run out. What's the point? Let's see. And then with regards to venturing, so that's not what we do at inventRight. We do licensing, which means it's the big company's money, workforce, and distribution. It's their product, and they're going to pay you royalties on every unit. And if they don't perform, you get it back. So you're never selling your product, you're renting it. So that's how licensing works. But when you're going to sell the product yourself, again, the patent office gives you a year. Now, if you're selling it yourself and you're working with vendors, you can get them to sign non-disclosure agreements, even though I'm telling you that potential licensees don't like to sign them up front. If it's a contractor or an engineer or a manufacturer that's going to quote you to get this manufactured, any of them, if they don't sign an NDA, run screaming, don't even work with them. So that is a measure of protection and the paper trail. So you can file the provisional patent, you can use that, and then you could file the provisional this is in theory. If you really want to be safe, you'd file it before you start interacting with a lot of people you really don't know or trust. But if you really trust the people and you want to string it out, you could file a provisional the week before you're going public with it, right? Where it's publicly disclosed. And that way you get the whole year. Maybe you get some feedback on the product, you want to make some changes, and you could file another provisional. And then within the year of the first provisional, because you're going out there in the public, you file a full utility patent, you can reference both provisionals. Hopefully that didn't confuse you guys. But so you can utilize the provisional when you're venturing and selling the product yourself as well, and string that out to delay paying all that money for the patent. Is there a little bit of risk? Yeah, it depends on the type of people you're exposing it to. If you really want to be conservative, you just file a provisional before you expose it to anybody. But also it's paying $10,000 on a patent, you don't know how it's going to do in the marketplace. That's a big financial risk, and you don't need to take that risk when you're licensing. And in some ways, you don't when you're venturing either. Let's see what else we got. Boutro is the handle. Hey Andrew, thank you! Exclamation mark. You're welcome! Exclamation mark. Boutro. The USPTO, that was kind of lame. The USPTO asked me to verify my address and get a customer number. Is this typical? I don't know if you're going through the right process. Call the 800 number, tell them you're a new inventor, and you're trying to file, and I'm assuming, I don't know what you're trying to do. You're trying to file a provisional patent, and just say, this is what's happening. Do I need this? Don't I need this? Talk to the patent office directly. It doesn't cost you a dime to talk to them. They're super helpful. So that's what I would do. Yeah, I can't. Tony says, how does taxes work when it comes to licensing and royalty gains? I can't comment on that, like giving tax advice and stuff. It's a good problem to have. You're earning tons of money from royalties, and then you have to figure out how to handle the taxes. There was a book, and I don't know if I get it, Nolo Press, they're like a self-help legal company, and they actually had a book, Taxes for Inventors. I've been doing this so long, I think that might be 15 years old, so definitely wouldn't want to go by that, especially with taxes. But I would Google it. I would ask your tax advisor, but I can't comment on that because that's kind of offering financial advice. And I know some things are changed there recently, but I don't know all the details of that, so I can't comment on that. Boutro, again, I used Photoshop to create my drawings and Swift 3D to create the three-dimensional rendering from different angles. He said, I started from scratch. In both instances, the process actually helped me consider all things and arrange the components in a practical way. Okay, not everybody is as technical as you, Hubutro, but you're right. Playing with a physical product or playing with it in 3D, if you're technically competent like that, it makes you think about stuff. And sometimes inventors aren't thinking about all that stuff, and it helps you be creative. And it could be looking at similar products and oh, maybe holding them, maybe just looking on the internet. Oh, I could tape this to that, or what have you. So I agree. Playing with things can really help you brainstorm and come up with a better product. I was guiding somebody earlier today to, you don't want to like just make a product patentable. That's junk. So I don't care about that. I always care about making it more marketable. And then if you're making it more marketable, then there's our, I had to hang up on Paul there. He's our negotiation coach. He was calling me on Skype. But if you make a product, you always want to make the product more marketable. And then if you can patent that more marketable version, you're doing good. But don't patent for patent's sake. Always, and to make something more marketable, you should be nitpicky. You should poke holes in the product itself, and you should look for problems. I was talking to this woman just a couple hours ago, and I was like, oh, there's a problem there, there's a problem there. And while I was talking to her, we created a better product. So, oh, well, but this could be a problem. Okay, that could be a problem. Oh, what's the solution? You come with a solution, you have a more marketable product, and you want to get a provisional patent on those features that make the product more marketable. So always be looking for problems. Like really, you try not to fall in love with your product too soon. Like poke holes in it. Go, well, that could be a problem. That could be a problem. Find that critical mind, and then turn on the creative to solve the problem. The longer that you've been thinking about it, most inventors lose their ability of that critical thinking. So when you come up with a new idea, sooner rather than later, look for these problems, like pretty much immediately. Go, okay, not immediately, because you want to get excited about the product, but later that day, the next day, 2-3 days later, go, okay, this is what it is. Because otherwise what you do is you keep rerunning in your head what it is, and you're not looking for problems because you're getting excited about what it is. And so really try to kind of poke holes in it and look for problems. Oh, okay. And then you might turn it into a Swiss Army knife. If you added too much stuff, you're like, okay, get rid of that, and you're like, but I'm going to keep this and this. That was good. But you can't make it a Swiss Army knife, start tacking everything on there. You can, but you don't always want to do that. So you want to figure out what is going to make it more marketable and thus patentable as well. Although you can license non-patentable stuff all the time. Yeah, so Ray is saying, one thing I've not heard or read is how to proceed with licensing international patents. Do other countries have equivalent to a PPA? I did an interview with a patent attorney, and I think it's up on YouTube now. I think James, our IT guy, put it up there, and it's specifically about that. So long story short, you want to watch that video, and what it's talking about, you'll know because it's one of the real recent videos if you sort it by that. One of the things it's talking about is a U.S. provisional patent, in a way, and it goes into a lot of depth, so we're not going to go into that here. Watch the new YouTube video. In a way, is an roundabout provisional patent in all sorts of Paris cooperation treaties and the PCT treaties, because other countries, like, they got together and complied under these certain rules. So even though a country may not have a provisional patent, if you file a U.S. provisional, then you can later file a PCT and later file a patent in that country. Now, there's a few caveats there that are weird. In some countries, like, you got to file in your country, it's just weird, which would apply to you only if you live in these other countries. In the U.S., you're good, but where you have to file in your own country before you can file in the U.S., which is strange. But watch that video, and it's with Jake Ward, and he's a patent attorney. And I'm not sure if I can't look right now. I'm not sure if we put it up on YouTube, but if not, it'll be up in a week or two. And it was about a quasi international provisional patent with just by filing a U.S. provisional. So, but watch that, because we did a full like 25 minutes on that, and that's free. And we just did that. I did it with Gene. The queen is within. There was their handle. Can anyone recommend an easy-to-use software for patent drawings for first-time beginners? Well, first off, you don't try to do your own patent drawings if you're filing your own utility patent. Don't try to file your own utility patent. I think that's nuts. But filing your own provisional and doing nice-looking patent drawings, absolutely. But there are no formal requirements for drawings at all in a provisional. You could take pictures of the product. You could take a piece of paper, put it, tape it underneath the glass table, put another piece on top of it, shine a lamp through it, and you could trace something. So you maybe take a picture of your product, then you trace it, and you get a line drawing. Like I can't draw a stick figure barely, but I could do a trace of a picture of a product and then make it a line drawing. It's nice when you do a PPA with a line drawing, because especially if they kind of look like patent drawings, because it just looks professional. Like the marketing managers are not usually patent experts. They take a quick look at your PPA. This looks nice, as opposed to like drawings that looks like a kindergartner did it. So, there's crude methods like the glass coffee top table method that I just explained with the light shining through it, and then there are different software that you can use to do line drawings. I don't have a particular you said, I've heard of Photoshop, but I'll definitely check out Swift 3D. There are a lot of solutions to do line drawings. I don't know if Illustrator might be better for that, but there are also lower priced products. Here's the thing though, if you're not good at drawing, you might not be good on the computer either. It's not like, it's a skill. You can go on some freelance sites and you can get line drawings done for like dirt cheap. So if you're not a person that knows how to draw, have somebody do it for you. A website like Fiverr or Upwork, and have them do line drawings. We do line drawings too. I think we were going to stop doing them, but I think we still do them. If you go to our design studio, I don't recall. But having them look, but there are no, like, with the line drawings, the patent drawings for a full utility patent, they need to be done just a certain way. Don't even attempt that. But a provisional patent, it could just kind of look like a patent drawing. You don't want to find somebody that does patent drawings, because they'll be expensive. But if you find somebody that does line drawings that kind of look like patent drawings, say, I want it to look like a patent drawing, show them some examples, they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. That could be dirt cheap. So that's what I would recommend. Don't find a professional patent drawer to do it. But if you're good at doing drawings and you're fairly computer savvy, well, maybe you can get a piece of software that's free or low cost and do it yourself. I think that's perfectly fine. But if you don't draw ever, just don't bother. You can find somebody to do it really cheap. Sam says, hi, Andrew, I've contacted designer companies to create a physical prototype. What should I do next? Well, the question is, do you need a physical prototype? So you're not selling your prototype or your patent, you're selling the benefit of your product. So a lot of our students are just doing the marketing piece. If they're going to say, well, how will this be done? You say, well, there's this product and this product. And they're like, oh, we can do that. So why'd you go out and spend $2,000 on a prototype? It's not necessary. Maybe you have a virtual prototype and it's in the marketing piece. This is what it's going to look like. So you're marketing it well, because that's what does the selling, not the prototype, the marketing piece. And you got a virtual prototype. Maybe you have a crude prototype, and maybe you have a video on that too, but there you're like, well, this is what it's going to look like, but here you can see it working. Maybe you don't have a physical prototype at all. Maybe you have a good looking, looks like prototype, but it would fall apart if you touched it, and you just take a picture of it. So there's a lot of different variations there. But the first thing to do is not get a prototype and get a patent. That's not the first thing to do, and that's what a lot of inventors do. So you said you've contacted designer companies to create the physical prototype. What should I do next? So you've contacted them, but you haven't done it. I would say don't do it. I would say don't get a physical prototype. I would say make a marketing piece. Now, you might need to. It depends on the product. That's one of the things our coaches guide people on. I can't say without talking to you about your product. I just can't say if you need a physical prototype or not, because you can learn things from playing with a prototype yourself or getting somebody, but it can be expensive to get a prototype made. And most of the time it's not necessary. If you don't need to prove anything out and you can look at similar products, or you just can't make it, but you know that it can be made, well then sell the product and the marketing of it, like the sell sheet or a video, and have a virtual prototype in there. Get a fish on the hook. And if they don't want to make the prototype by just you saying, well, you do it like this or that, and they're like, oh yeah, we got it, we'll get some quotes, we want to make sure this can be made at a reasonable price. But if they do want to put it on you, they won't get upset with you that you don't have a physical prototype. If it takes you 3 months to do it, they got other things to do, so you're not their top priority. Come on back. Okay, it's going to take me a couple months, or it's going to take me a couple weeks, or whatever it is. It's okay. A lot of people don't think that's okay, and it totally is. I talked to somebody about that this morning. Yeah, so Berto, cold calling is not dead. So I was talking to actually Benjamin Harrison, who does our Smart Pitch, which is our program for LinkedIn for licensing. Absolutely, positively, cold calling is not dead. It's sexy marketing, but it's not true. Okay. Do I think that for most industries, your first approach should be to try LinkedIn? Yes. But some people, like let's say you got a list of 30 companies, but 5 of those companies, you just can't get a hold of anybody on LinkedIn and they're not on LinkedIn. You're going to pick up the stupid phone and call them. All right. Cold calling is not dead, and sending direct emails is not dead. But do I believe that when possible, if you're willing to build up your LinkedIn profile, that reaching out on LinkedIn is the best first solution? Yes. But in some industries or with some companies, they're just crickets when you reach out on LinkedIn. So yes, LinkedIn should be your first approach. Now I have people that are like, I don't want to do LinkedIn. I'll just pick up the phone. I'm not afraid. I'm like, great, just go for it. If you think about it, I talked to Stephen about this the other day. If you just pick up the phone, it happens right there. If you do LinkedIn, you need to build your profile. You need to build a bunch of contacts so that you can reach out to people. And that can take some time. Phone, you can just pick up right away. And I've talked to our head coach, Terry O'Mara, and I talked to Ben over the weekend because he was visiting. He was actually in his RV in my driveway at the house because he's doing some traveling. He's our LinkedIn for licensing expert, and Stephen. And I'm like, guys, cold calling is not dead. LinkedIn, I talked to Stephen about this too. And so, yes, we did some of that marketing. LinkedIn is, which I disagree with fully. And Stephen and our head coach, Terry, and Ben all agree when I approached them with this. LinkedIn is first, and then you can do cold calling and do email if you can't get to certain people. But just to say only LinkedIn and not to reach out to a company because some marketing managers, they only go on LinkedIn when they need a job. Other people, they're on there every day. You cannot rely on one source. It's like a lot of things in InventRight, you're going to do multiple things. So, but I agree, we shouldn't be doing that marketing. I disagree with the marketing. It's kind of sexy, but I do believe that for most people, LinkedIn is a great way. You can be doing it at 2 a.m. in the morning. You can be copying, pasting the scripts that we give you. And it is an absolutely fantastic tool. And Benjamin does an amazing job of teaching people to use LinkedIn for licensing. But we're going to be modifying that program where instead of just Ben on there talking about LinkedIn, I mean, all our students have one-on-one with their coach. But then Ben comes on every other week to talk about LinkedIn for licensing. People talk about, I couldn't get in here or there. And they're already talking about using Facebook pages, using email, using phone calls. So we talk about that in our trainings. But and we always have a coach on there too, but we're going to talk about LinkedIn and cold calling and email all in those same training sessions now. We do that one-on-one with the coach, but then Ben's doing LinkedIn and the coach is doing cold calling, LinkedIn, and email. So sorry to ramble so much on that, but it's something I'm passionate about. It's something that I'd like to change our marketing for that, because I think you're missing the boat if you think you never have to make a phone call again. I don't think that's true. There's always going to be, if you have 30 companies and 5 of them, you're just not able to get them on LinkedIn. And they're good companies. They're on your list for a reason. You should pick up the stupid phone and call them. It's the quickest way to get in. Does it always work? No. Are people afraid of it? Yes. Should you be? No. You know? Yeah, Githin says, is the Invent Yes program still in go? Yeah, we have a program for high school kids and I guess younger, maybe middle school kids, and it's free. It's called Invent Yes, and yes, that's still go. And if you register on there, somebody should get back to you. If not, please email me at Andrew@inventRight. It's only for high school kids. It doesn't have any one-on-one coaching, but we have some videos in there that we kind of brought down to like a high school, junior high kind of level, and it's all free. So we do have that. Yeah, Hu Boutro said, yes, awesome. I talk to people for a living, so cold calling is my preference. Thanks for encouraging words. Yes, Stephen said the other day when I was telling him, rambling like I just did there, he's like, Andrew, if I had my way, everybody would make a cold call initially because it's immediate. Because Stephen he's very impatient, and I say that in a positive way. You just get on the phone call. But people are so afraid of calling. You know, LinkedIn's great. I'm like, absolutely. But he said, if I had my way, I'd tell everybody, just do cold calling initially and then do LinkedIn. But what LinkedIn does is it gets people warmed up. It's a great way to reach out to people. It's a great way to make contacts. But a lot of people just aren't comfortable with the cold calling. So I'm fine saying, okay, it's not working on LinkedIn for these companies. Call now, okay? And I'm comfortable with that. So you're comfortable with it, you know, Hu Boutro. So do it, absolutely. Last question is Jeff. How long do we give the licensee before the minimum guarantees kicks in? It varies. It could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. It's part of interviewing the company to see how long they're going to. You don't want them to have to pay you minimum guarantees if it's a complex product and they're not going to be able to even launch it for 9 months. They shouldn't have to pay you royalties. But you know, so what you can do is you might say, okay, it's going to start at 6 months or 9 months, but there's other milestones. They have to have it show up on the dock after 6 or whatever. There's all sorts of different things. So it depends on you interviewing the company, finding out what their plans are, and then doing something that makes sense for you, so they're not sitting on the idea, but also makes sense for them. So it can vary. It varies depending on you interviewing. And that's one thing that I'll leave you with, guys, tonight is it's a lot of you interviewing the company and accommodating them and them accommodating you and going back and forth. It's not like you like the product, okay, let's sign a deal. It's not the way it works. You're interviewing them a lot. And it's great because you're creating that relationship and that rapport. So it's a good thing. But you're welcome, Jeff. Thank you. All right, I gotta get going, guys. I know I probably look exhausted, and I am. So I did a full hour. I'm gonna be back next Monday. Check out InventRight if you want to check out our coaching program and other programs. We've been doing this for 21 years. We'd love to help you guys. And I'll be back next Monday. And watch some of the YouTube videos too. If you could do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to our channel. I forget what we're at, like 40,000 plus subscribers. We want to hit 80,000. I'd like to hit it the first 6 months of this year. So if you're like, wow, Andrew is super helpful, I want to do something to help him. If you're not subscribed, it's no commitment. You just click subscribe, and it's not like you'll get spam or anything like that, and it will help us. So watch a bunch of videos, like a bunch of videos. Please, everyone, if you can, click subscribe. That helps us. I didn't charge you anything for the whole hour tonight, and I've been doing this during the whole pandemic thing every Monday almost. So help us out. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to go get some sleep. So take care. Keep inventing. We'll catch up the next time. See you guys. Bye.